kind of random.
What does joining HipHopNow's Patreon mean? It means supporting the kind of hip-hop content that keeps you updated on the latest hip-hop news and moves. It means supporting the production of content like That Time in Hip-Hop and HipHopNow Reviews. It means you care about the conversation and preservation of hip-hop music and culture. HipHopNow Patreon supporters get access to bonus content, merchandise, and more. Support the movement. Become a supporter of HipHopNow podcast today at patreon.com/hiphopnow.
Coming up on this week's episode of HipHopNow podcast, suspects are finally arrested in the murder of Jam Master Jay. LeBron James reps 1996 hip-hop on his pregame t-shirt, and new Nas album out. And well, the internet is just going internet. Y'all know how it go. Let's do it.
Let's get right to the business.
Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
Classic album. Classic album.
The Hip Hop Podcast. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast. A podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip-hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Returning listeners, you know I appreciate you. You know how I feel about you. New listeners, I'm glad you came through. Whatever way you got here, I'm glad you are here. Please, everybody, make sure that you subscribe. Hit that like button. Leave a review, because I don't have many reviews. I have a lot of people that listen, but not many people review. So wherever you listen, leave a review, especially if you're on Apple. Leave a review of this podcast. Good or bad. But more importantly, share this podcast with people you know enjoy this kind of hip-hop content. Big shout out to the Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/hiphopnow, helping to make things happen here behind the scenes. Some of it you can hear within the show. So much more to come on that, obviously. Also, big shout out to those listening right now. Yes, talking to you. Big shout out to those who are tuned in to the G Radio, listening to this show. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad you get the opportunity to hear it. Big shout out to the G Radio for having me. It's going to be a fun ride, so let's do it. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com. Hip Hop Lately, and a couple of places where I'm getting some of these stories from. So the other day, LeBron James wore a t-shirt pregame, before a game with 5 hip-hop albums on it. Now, I'm going to give credit to where I saw it, but I don't know how credible the exact headline of this story is. Not a big deal, but I'm just going to put that out there. I got to do what I do. But it says shout out to Vlad TV website. This is where I'm getting this from. But it says LeBron reveals his top 5 hip-hop albums of all time with pre-game t-shirt. Now, I didn't do too much digging. I just read the article on this site. And it's not really quoting that this is his top 5. But the only reason why I was so, quote unquote, I'm putting up air quotes, concerned about it is because, one, I'm a LeBron fan. So, hey, whatever. You can hate me now. But it was because each one of these albums came out in the year 1996. And I was thinking to myself, who has a top 5 hip-hop albums that are all in one year? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't seem... Now, I mean, obviously, if you like 15 and you just started listening to rap last year and everything you heard so far was in that year that you liked, then yeah, I get it. But with LeBron, he's a little bit older and, a little bit younger than me. But his top 5 or the albums that were featured on his t-shirt that were all released in 1996, Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt, Nas's It Was Written, Tupac's Machiavelli, Outkast's AT Aliens, and the Fugees' The Score. Now, I feel comfortable saying all 5 of those are bona fide hip hop classics when it comes to most hip hop fans. You would either say all of them or most of them or somewhere along the lines, but there's definitely some classics on that t-shirt. It still doesn't really confirm that that's his top 5, but it still was interesting to see that, and kind of dope in some ways because, again, with all this COVID-19 stuff and you got this NBA restart that I've been watching heavily because I'm a big sports fan, so whatever. I don't care if the crowd's there or not. As long as the dudes are playing with some passion, who cares? But I think everything is like magnified, right? Because there's not a lot that's on TV that's new. Like there aren't movies coming out all the time. You know, we got to wait for certain TV shows because we done binged everything that was happening, you know, right when COVID started. I'm looking at you, the Tiger King. So, you know, like everything kind of gets talked about a little bit more than usual. And to see that as a hip hop fan, I was like, oh, that's dope. But to see this title say that it's his top 5, I'm just like, but that was all the same year. Like, and again, I'm not even stressing it that crazy because with my other podcast, That Time in Hip Hop, we actually did a whole episode on the year 1996, and we talked about how in a lot of ways it rivals some of the best years in hip hop as far as releases and quality of music and even quantity. But mostly quality because there's a lot of classics. I mean, I just said it. 5 of those joints are on his shirt. And I can name another one that's not on his shirt. Like, y'all really want me to go there? I'll go there with one, Redman Muddy Waters. I feel comfortable saying that's a classic. That was also released in 1996. So 1996 was a good year, and I'm not mad at it. I just found it interesting. Like, to you, the listener, I posed this question. What are your top 5 albums of all time? And do they all land in the same year? Because for me, I can't necessarily ramble off my top 5 right now without really giving it some true thought because there's a lot of albums I like. But I can name 2 that I know weren't in the same year, and you know, maybe that's just me. New Jay-Z dropped. Let me say this: New Pharrell dropped. Produced by Neptunes, but featuring Jay-Z on the bars, called Entrepreneur. And it shines a light on black entrepreneurs. Like, you know what it was going to say, right? You knew that was coming. So let's see. Right here now we have an article here. This is on hiphopdx.com. Jay-Z and Pharrell Williams have a Neptunes-produced collaboration on... Well, this says on the way, but this already happened. You from the future, you know what to do. You need to get your ass out of here, but whatever. So apparently, we're not even going to get into when this dropped and the significance of that. But this song is mostly about, black entrepreneurs. So obviously, it's timely. It's about black business and shining a light on black business. And if you were paying attention a couple podcasts ago, you would know that I did mention that, Jay-Z had took out like a couple of full page ad in like prominent newspapers in a couple of states featuring a black business, which is pretty dope because, a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, are struggling. So that probably was a good look for, even just for the press, not just the ad itself, but the press about Jay-Z doing that was dope. So they got a song about it. Song's not that great as far as entertainment purposes, but that's not necessarily the purpose, is it? They also released a video for it that you could check out online. So check that out. I mean, it's not bad at all. But I felt like, oh, it's cool. But I kind of moved on, you know what I'm saying? But definitely salute for making music like that anyway, because then it gets more eyes and ears on it, just like I mentioned with the ads. And this isn't the biggest news, not for a podcast like this, but Megan Thee Stallion confirmed that Tory Lanez was the one that shot her in the foot. We already knew this, basically. I mean, he got arrested for having a gun. She shot in the foot. He the only one with a gun. Doesn't take much, but for some reason, she wasn't saying anything, and according to her, his publicists were denying this stuff. So the soap opera continues. On to more important news. For years, man, I have always been in my bag on feeling some kind of way about not only people forgetting to mention Jam Master Jay, but that his murder was a cold case. And it really bothered me because Biggie, Big L to a certain extent, even though we kind of know but didn't know, but the streets kind of took care of it. You know what I'm talking about. It just seemed like it wasn't a priority. You know what I'm saying? And Jam Master Jay was murdered in Jamaica, Queens in a recording studio on October 30th, 2002. Which, for some people, that was a long time ago. Some people was like babies when that happened. But yes, I was a grown-ass man when it went down. And, it was a sad day, man, because Jam Master Jay, you got to understand the importance of Jam Master Jay as a DJ within the group Run DMC was serious. You know what I'm saying? I mean, his influence on the way they dressed, looked, their harder image back then in the 80s. Then plus he was a dope DJ. He also went on to bring us a couple of dope hip-hop acts like Onyx and 50 Cent. Before 50 Cent was on Shady, Jam Master Jay was the plug. Jam Master Jay was that dude. Well, there have been some arrests, basically. Some two suspects. I don't have the info completely in front of me, which kind of sucks at the moment, but we don't need to know them cats' name. All we need to know is that on Monday, August 17th, Carl Jordan Jr. and Ronald Washington were arrested for the alleged murder of Jam Master Jay. So here's to hoping and wishing that this gets resolved so his family can have some peace. For hip-hop fans like me who were always concerned about the fact that Jam Master Jay just got murdered and, there was just nothing else, there's some peace in that. Some might be saying, if you don't know, that the word on the street supposedly is that he was murdered over I think it's like a 1.2 million drug deal gone wrong. So basically it was a hit. I mean, when it went down, it was clear that it was a hit. Before, there was a documentary on Netflix, which you should check out. It's called Who Killed Jam Master Jay. Before there was that documentary, that was kind of the word on the street that it was like it was a hit. You know what I'm saying? And like a setup as far as how they got in. But we didn't hear anything. And for those who don't know, Jam Master Jay, at least prior to Run DMC, and some say even during and after, was in them streets. And some may feel like, oh, well, that's how the game is played. And that's true. That's very true. Like Jam Master Jay is no different from somebody else who finds himself in that situation. My only thing is, I don't know. I don't have any facts. I wasn't there. I wasn't there for his murder. I wasn't there for a drug deal gone bad. Wasn't there for any of it. So I don't know. So hopefully the truth comes out. No one deserves to die, regardless. Rest in peace, George Floyd. Breonna Taylor, same. But no one deserves to die for these types of situations. So let's just hope, there's some resolution there for the family. In other sad news, uh, DJ Shay, linked to Griselda Records, if you don't know, passed away recently. He was like a vital part. Like maybe you didn't hear his name, maybe you've seen him in a couple of pictures with, the Griselda Records family, Conway the Machine, West Side Gun, you know what I'm saying, Armani, Caesar, Benny the Butcher. Maybe you've seen him in the background, but didn't know who he was. You know what I'm saying? And it's apparent because I don't claim to know everything, but it's apparent that he was very, very much a vital part of that record label and the rise of Griselda Records and that team. So a lot of them are posting. I remember reading Conway posting like, I'm writing this while I'm crying, and they seem to be really, really hurt. Which is sad because, it kind of makes me think, unfortunately, and I don't want to just shoehorn rap, but it just, because we talk about it so much in our music, and this is a hip hop show, I'm going to use it as an example, but it seems like every time, like either before we blow up or, early on, somebody who's there during the rise before it really blows or it starts to blow or they see it. I mean, it's done happened to so many people. I remember Biggie talking about his man, just so many people, ill will, you know what I'm saying, with Nas, that this person is so vital to this artist's rise and influence and motivation, and they pass away, and it's kind of like their memory becomes the engine for how they move going forward. So obviously condolences out to his family and his friends and his associates. um but I could see Griselda Records really grieving and then really turning up, you know what I'm saying, to really push their music and their record labels to a next level in honor of their homie DJ Shay. Um, so rest in peace to him. Sad to see it because it just happens way too often, but it's a part of life. Unfortunately, it happens like that. There's a poem from when Tupac was locked up in New York's Clinton Correctional Facility in 1995 that he wrote to Salt from Salt and Pepper. So the story goes is that Salt of Salt and Pepper unveiled this poem that Pac had sent to the public via LL Cool J's platform, Rock the Bells. And when she says the poem was one of the multiple letters sent to Salt by Pac during his time behind bars. According to her, she sent him books about faith and learned he read them along with the Quran and the Bible. And this is her speaking, and I quote, "When he went to jail, me being a Christian, I wrote him a letter about my faith to encourage him and to also let him know what kept me going in the hard times. He felt like the whole world was turning against him and he was unjustly in prison. I told him that he could turn away from negativity and turn away from sin. He could have this new relationship directly with God." So I guess this is part of the poem right here. Let's see. Can you click on it? We cannot click on it. But it says, "Am not much for pretty words and such, 'cause these days my pain is deep, but there is always pleasure to be found in times of struggle and grief. And if a tree can grow from New York concrete, then a thug can change his heart. If I can survive 5 deadly shots, we can discover light within the dark. I'm sure you have had times of misery. All of us experience hurt, but only the strong in spirit survive the wicked world for all it's worth." Pretty dope, pretty simple, you know what I'm saying? Straight to the point, kind of shows how deeply Tupac's time in jail was affecting him. Because that was one thing that was being said during the time, with him getting out of death row, was that Tupac was desperate to get out of prison. And, some of those overzealous fans like to sugarcoat things and make them sound, like make it sound like WWE, like Pac couldn't wait to get out to get to his enemies. No, that's not exactly what it was. Pac was a man, you know what I'm saying? And if he felt like he didn't belong in prison for something he did, you're going to be down. If he felt like a lot of people stopped answering his calls, or he was hearing things about, when he got shot and robbed, and then you're in prison. Like, so you're going to have all these things weighing on you, especially when they're outside of those walls. That can affect a man, you know what I'm saying? And that can make a man desperate. So, rest in peace, Pac, man. And I just wish situations turned out better than they did, because, man, it, like, going back on 96, that year in particular, it was just so much that even 1995, when I think about it, it was just so much that went on, just got out of control. You know what I'm saying? I've been shouting out hiphopdx.com a lot on this episode, because even though there's not a lot of news, they have a lot of good stuff happening on their site. And I've been using them as one of my sources for years, so it's pretty dope. But they have this list, right? 20 rap songs just as filthy as Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's WAP. So this is not safe for work, but this is a family podcast, so I'm not really going to go there. But I'm going to name a couple of the records so you can go and check them out yourself. I'm not going to give up the whole list, but it's about 20 up here, so I'll read 10. Kia, My Neck, My Back, Lick It. If you've never heard that record, trust me, listen to the dirty version. Lil Kim and 50 Cent, Magic Stick. That one's not too bad. Akinelli, Put It in Your Mouth. I mentioned this in my last episode. They probably could have just posted this. This is just as bad. Trina featuring Killer Mike, Look Back at It. Oh, Look Back at Me, but that's kind of what I meant anyway. Cupcake, with a song called Deep Throat out of 2016. I never heard that one. Gonna have to put the headphones on with that one. Choice, Cat Got Your Tongue. Wow, these records are getting dirtier and dirtier. Lady, and the song is called Yankin'. I'll let you fill in the blanks. Hey, look, Megan Thee Stallion, Big Old Freak. Lil Kim featuring Cisco, How Many Licks? Yeah, trust me, Lil Kim got some dirtier records than that. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to read the whole list. So, Ludacris featuring Trina, Shauna, and Foxy Brown, What's Your Fantasy Remix? Yeah, that song was kind of nasty. Trick Daddy featuring Trina, nah, yep. Yin Yang Twins, Wait, the Whisper song. Yeah, y'all heard the clean version on the radio, but yeah, you need to hear the dirty version. But that's all I'm going to read. So go check out hiphopdx.com. It's their list of 20 rap songs just as filthy as Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's WAP. Again, like I said last week, they wouldn't be the first. And lastly, I'm not going to do this here, so pump your brakes. But if y'all don't know, Nas has a brand new album out on the streets called King's Disease. It just dropped. If you're from the future, get your ass out of here. You've already heard it. But the album features 14 tracks, which is right up my alley. Nice, perfect, you know what I'm saying? Not too long. I love it. Guest features. Now, if you haven't heard the album, just hold on to your horses. Don't pass out. Charlie Wilson, Hit Boy, who produced the entire album, Big Sean and Don Toliver, Lil Durk, Anderson .Paak, not mad at that one, Brucey B, not mad at that one either, The Firm, that's Foxy, Cormega, and AZ, and I think Nature's at the end of that record, to be honest. Even though he's not listed, he wasn't listed, but I think he's at the end of that record. And a bonus track featuring Fabio Foreign and ASAP Ferg. Now, being as I'm recording this podcast now, I'm not going to give my review of the album because I kind of feel like, I've only listened to it once so far. And anything I say is merely impressions. Because the thing is, my first impression is that I like it. But that doesn't mean the second, the third listen, I won't skip tracks or I won't love the tracks more. I might love the tracks more. I may feel comfortable enough to say one of my top 5. I don't know. But that's why it's important when you're reviewing an album to listen more than once. Now, some people, I saw one dude say he listened 4 or 5 times already, and I was like, damn, this joint just came out last night. This was in the morning, y'all. There's no way, even if I was up, that I'm going to listen to this Nas album 5 times in a row. I know it's short, but it ain't that short. I need to sit with it. So this is what I'm going to do, and my review will be up this Sunday. I got my first listen off, right? I'm going to listen again while I check out this new Madden. Then I'm going to listen another time when I'm probably outside grilling, smoking and drinking. And then I'm going to listen one more time right before I review it. Because that usually puts the stamp on it to say how I feel. So stay tuned for that. That'll be available on this same podcast stream. Or you can just visit any one of my social media accounts at Vegas World INC. That's Twitter or Instagram. But that's going to do it for me for this week. So please know that you can support this podcast by visiting patreon.com/HipHopNow. There's a lot of exclusive content there. There's some merchandise. There's blog posts, everything, including this podcast. So become a supporter of this podcast and let's grow this thing. Let's make this thing better than it already was. Also, I have another podcast, but on YouTube, called That Time in Hip Hop. You can check that out on YouTube by just searching for the words That Time in Hip Hop. Until next time, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.
Drop it on the random.